everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel. I am Dr. Ashwati. Students, in this lecture, I am going to discuss about modern liberalism. In the last class, I have discussed about classical liberalism. Students, in the classical liberal phase, let's say that was the earliest phase, we have seen that there was a big shift happening in Europe. The Europe was in transition from feudal system to that of capitalist system. There was an emergence of an idea of atomistic individual. An individual, he himself possesses certain rights, like the natural right theory was there. Utilitarianism was also there, although natural right theory and utilitarianism both are opposite, but still they held certain common points that it is about the individual. Then negative rights were the negative liberty. Negative liberty in simple words meant absence of constraints, and it also means that there should not be any intervention from the state with respect to the economic affairs of individuals, which was clearly mentioned in the laissez-faire individualism, an idea mooted by Adam Smith. Later on, various other economists were also there, like David Ricardo, Malthus, and various others. Now, all these thinkers came up with a common idea that first, the state should be a minimal state. The state's activities were restricted to that of as a security provider. Second aspect was that it was the individual that was the unit of analysis. So, let the people be free, let the individuals be free. That was the major idea. But under modern liberalism, there was a shift. Modern liberalism, this is a product of the 20th century. Now, we can say that from the 19th century to that of the 20th century, within 100 years, so many things changed. What were the new developments? We will check out here. So, in the 20th century, liberalism is also called as the modern liberalism. Industrialization brought a whole set of problems. It means that rapid industrialization, then after the transition of people from that of rural centers to that of the urban centers, then after new technological advancements and so many new problems. It has its own pros and cons. But yes, industrialization, or rapid industrialization, brought a set of problems, especially for the working class population. Exploitation of laborers was high, it was quite high. Then the slum settlers, then social inequality, poverty, ignorance, disease, all these things were there. For the working class problems, were multitude. Most of the people actually had very low wages, and in those days there were no labor rights. The children were also employed in factories. Women also had to work for good number of, we can say that some people had 12 hours of working. So it was like a very bad, we can say that Europe was in a very bad shape. Industrialization was high. They were making rapid developments in terms of outputs. But in terms of the working class, it was in a very bad way, in a very bad shape. So here you can see that many problems were there. Low wages, the pay was very less, unemployment was on a very high rise, and then after hire and fire. If you are not capable of going to work for one day, then what will happen? You will lose the job because someone else is waiting to take your position. So all these tensions were there, and by the 20th century, or we can say that by the early part of the 20th century, there was an understanding that somewhere the idea of laissez-faire, the idea of non-intervention of state in the economic affairs was actually proving to be a kind of it was bringing more disaster to the human community. Then after, there was an emergence of positive liberty debate within this sphere. Positive liberty, it means that it was not about the absence of constraints, but it went further. Liberty came to be regarded as self-development, self-mastery. Okay, at one level, absence of constraints is fine. But on the second stage, it was about the developing yourself. It means that developing your skills, you should have the conditions where you can develop yourself. Let's say that if you're working as a laborer in a factory and you are facing exploitation, then how can you develop your skill? You are working there as a machine. One of the best example, like you can watch the movie of a Charlie Chaplin, that is Modern Times, where you will see that a person is forced to work like a machine, and you will find the same ideas in public administration also when we deal with Taylorism. Now in Taylorism also we have seen that how you have to, like the time and motion study was there. Like there was a kind of a calculation of how much time you are spending on each activity. So it means that there is no human side. It was just about the, or we can say that it was just about the mechanization of the work. From atomistic individualism to developmental individualism. During the modern liberal period, or the thinkers associated with positive liberty, they started saying that we have to move from the atomistic view of the individual to that of a developmental individual. It means that you have to develop the capacities of the individual rather than leaving them alone or leaving them in an isolated way. Moral foundation of rights. Now here, moral foundation of rights means that the rights are not the product of natural law. Rights are not something like we call it as inalienable rights that we have witnessed in the classical liberal period. But in the modern liberal period, the idea was that the rights are the products of human expressions, human experiences. They brought a legal dimension to it. It means that when I talk about legal here, it means that state has a greater role to play here. For your rights, who is going to provide you with the rights? The state is, or state was considered as a very necessary instrument. Now here, there was an idea that you have to develop the welfare state. The state is not just as a minimal state. State is not just a security provider, but also a welfare state. So let's check out the public provision of basic education, health services and housing. The idea was that state has to, like, enhance its role, not just as a security provider, but as a facilitator, or we can say that a service provider for basic education, health care and housing for those who are needy as well. Here another idea was that state intervention deemed necessary and criticism of laissez-faire policy. J.S. Mill, or John Stuart Mill, his ideas appeared during this crucial time. J.S. Mill propounded about two types of actions: self-regarding actions and other regarding action. Now here, in his idea on liberty, he said that there are two types of actions basically. One action is that the actions what you do, the act what you do, which has impact on yourself. So it means that if I do something, that is the self-regarding action. Like I am doing something which is actually going to have an impact on myself only, and it is not going to hurt others. It means that it is a self-regarding action. Other regarding action means whatever act I do, if it has the potential to impact someone else's life in a negative way, then the state intervention is deemed necessary. It means that in the sphere of other regarding actions, let's say that if there is a person who has consumed alcohol and that person starts driving car, and that too in a very full speed, there is a potential that that person can hurt anyone, that person can cause accidents, and it is that context where the state need to intervene. That person should be arrested. It means that that is the other regarding action, because one person's act can impact on the life of others. So I hope so this is clear to you people. The process of modern liberalism or welfarism was interrupted by the First World War. And then after, there were many other, let's say that there were many other developments as well, like the Great Depression of the 1930s, then the Nazi uprising in Germany, then after Soviet communism. All these things actually threaten liberalism. As you know that Hannah Arendt, she spoke about the totalitarian movements of the early part of the 20th century. She has accused Nazism and Stalinism as one of the best examples of totalitarian movement, and she also criticized modernity in between. So Nazi uprising, Soviet communism, all these things had the potential to threaten the liberalism. Here the idea was that the state as a provider of welfare things like, like common good, etc., was threatened, because after these events what we have seen is the world was plunged into the Second World War. Now it's time to discuss about the major thinkers and their books. Like from the perspective of UGC-NET examination, what you need to understand is more about the factual information. You don't need to understand all the subjective lines, but you should know that who said what, when, how, what are its basic components, then after the basic tenets. All these things are necessary from the perspective of your UGC-NET examination. Now let's check out all the books. Harold J. Lasky, he is one of the prominent figure associated with that of modern liberalism as well as with that of the positive rights. He has written the following books: A Grammar of Politics, published in 1925, Liberty in the Modern State, 1930, Democracy in Crisis, 1933, A State in Theory, 1935. Then we have Leonard Hobhouse, and he is also known by the other name, that is L.T. Hobhouse. He has written the following books: Liberalism, published in 1911, Social Evolution and Political Theory, 1911, Development and Purpose, 1913, The Elements of Social Justice, 1922. Then we have J.S. Mill or John Stuart Mill. He has written a good list of books on liberty, 1859, 3 essays on religion, nature, the utility of religion and theism, 1874. Then we have T.H. Green, one of the most prominent figure associated with modern liberalism. T.H. Green or Thomas Hill Green, he has written this work, Prolegomena to Ethics, 1883, Lectures on the Principles of Political Obligation, published in 1886. So these are the most important figures associated with modern liberalism. So students, I hope you have understood the lecture, and for more information, you can join our classes as well. So students, see you in another lecture. Bye.